Welcome to My Favorite CX, a podcast that celebrates exceptional customer experiences. To listen to today's, please choose from one of the following options.
Welcome to My Favorite Customer Experience. I'm Chris Holt from Holt CX Consultancy here in the UK, and I'm joined this week by Nimi Singh, founder at the Table app. Nimi, welcome to My Favorite Customer Experience.
Thank you so much for having me, Chris. It's a pleasure.
Now, Nimi, we met recently at the Engage Customer Summit in London, and I was fascinated with the concept of the Table app. So my understanding is you were running a communications consultancy and pivoted to launching the Table app, mainly because you wanted to eat great food, and doing so was becoming more and more difficult with good company.
Exactly that. This really is a very personal build. It's really to solve my own problem, which was I had an ever-growing list of restaurants I wanted to try and simply no one to go with. This is a much more simpler statement. It was a lot more of a deeper journey that I went on in terms of feeling very disconnected, lonely at times as well. And loneliness showed up for me in a different way, in that I did have lots of people around me, friends, family, but I didn't feel like my desire to connect was being met. And so, and also as a single person, quite fatigued by the dating apps and the sort of societal toxicity that they create. And so I went on a journey to sort of try lots of different events, going to meetup events, Eventbrite, and I even joined Paddle to try and meet new people. And along these experiences, what I kept noticing was that I just felt really disconnected and disappointed each time. And I think for me, the disappointment landed in the fact that whilst there were fascinating verticals that you could choose from, it was really potluck who you're sat next to, or who you sort of walk into the event to, in the elevator, for instance, whether or not you hit it off, whether this is your sort of person. And I think that randomness for me was just leaving me feeling quite disconnected each time. And so, in a way, this all kind of this is quite some years in the making. And as I said, it was purely from frustration. I really started building this, which was like, I just want to be intentional. I want to sit down. I want to have great conversation with people, and I want to do it with great food. And food is it's my passion. It's my love language. It's my heritage is Punjabi, and I inherited my mum and my grandma's hands and the ability to cook and bring people together. And it really is a universal language. It's something that we can connect over. And so yes, exactly that. That's what I set out to do. I just wanted to try new restaurants and meet new people at the same time.
And I think that's where, in our original conversation at the summit, it resonated, because in a year of doing this podcast, the amount of people that talk about restaurants, staying with them, and the human experiences. And whilst I come at it from a technology perspective and customer experience, that need for connection is greater, and that want for connection is greater than ever. You talked upon like loneliness being one of those kind of key drivers to bring people together.
I think now more than ever, we need more human connection. I think being so digital first, it's really important for me that through this build is that we're creating safe spaces for people to come together and really flex that muscle again on how do you just have a conversation with somebody, human to human, and being non-transactional. I think the idea of being AI first at the moment is quite frightening in a lot of ways. AI is our co-pilot, and I'm really excited by it. I love using it, but I think using it with critical thinking is absolutely imperative. And it is worrying to see that a lot of people are starting to use it in a way that is taking it verbatim. What it tells you you are is what you are. And I think for me, I'm a millennial, and I come from a generation that really values human first and remembers what human first was. And I think part of my values in this build is to really drive that and make that accessible again for people. And as I say, for you to sort of come together non-transactionally. We're not pitching, we're not selling, and we're not dating, we're platonic. And I think connections needed more today than ever before. We're seeing this in statistics. Loneliness is obviously what we're looking to solve and really create a big dent in that. It's an epidemic. It's been declared an epidemic in the US. And we're shortly, we're not far behind here either in the UK. So 1 in 3 adults in the UK feel lonely, if not always, often. And when you look at the gender split within this, it's actually quite staggering that men are by far the greater gender who are suffering within this. And I think a recent statistic was 1 in 5 men don't have any close friends. And so, when we're talking about connection and bringing people together around these tables, it's really to spark meaningful conversation. So enough of the surface level chat and just sort of dive deep into something interesting. It doesn't have to be so deep and personal, but it can be something that lights you up a bit. And I think those are the moments that we're missing the most at the moment, and what we're really trying to strive in building with these experiences.
And I think a lot of that rings true for me. I remember getting to a point just over a decade ago where I was like, I was in my first. So I'm a late, not late, early millennial. I was right at the, I was 18 in 2000, so I was right at the cusp of that. So sometimes I'm appalled by the idea of being a millennial, and then I'm not. It depends on the day and what millennials are being accused of, I guess. But I got to a point in my mid 30s where I was like, or early 30s, where I was like, to your point about loneliness, of like your university friends, everyone moves to different parts of the country, starts having kids, all that kind of stuff. And I didn't want to get to the point in my mid 40s of having 2 friends and, not liking them, that kind of situation. And I threw myself into the running community and various other volunteer kind of things. And actually, I think your point about it not being transactional is massive, because like you, I've tried networking events, and a lot of the time you're sat there and you're wondering, is this person talking to me out of wanting to talk to me, or because they want to see what opportunity there is with me? And I think by bringing people together with food is massive. I mean, I'm a foodie as well, and bringing people together with great food and great conversation is a great way for people to potentially find friendships.
It's really important to me for the spaces to be non-transactional, and we actually have a house rule which says that we don't say what we do for a living. And so, to your point, that already negates any transactional intentions. So, as I said, we're not going to be pitching, if you're, for instance, a VC and you're sat there, then suddenly, all of a sudden, people are pitching you businesses and pitching you wanting money. And I think it's really important that we are just human to human. So we're on a really level playing field. And I think food has a natural ability to provide that. It's, when we ran this, and we ran the beta earlier in the year and tested this, it was really important for me to know that the product I need and I'm building is something that other people need. And it was a resounding yes, which was amazing. But what was wonderful was that there was really little orchestration that was required. And I think when we set these sort of standards, which is the expectation is just to turn up open, curious, and hungry. And I always say the best, worst case scenario, you're going to have a great meal. Best case, you're going to have a great meal and you're going to have a great conversation. And what people really did was just turn up with that sense of excitement, a little bit of nervousness, obviously. I think it's a bit jarring still societally to like turn up and have, sit down with people you don't know. But I think when we set these expectations of, intentionality, and coming together in a really open way, that already just, as I said, dissipates any friction, and that nervousness of what to expect or how you show up. The point is, we want you to show up as you are. And, to the running clubs, I think it's brilliant. It doesn't speak to me. I'm not a runner. And therefore, that's not something I can get involved in. And I think, again, that was, part of that frustration, which was like, well, there are a lot of people out there also, myself included, don't know what my hobbies are yet. And that's okay. I don't think you need to, I think a lot of people are still figuring it out. And I think the more that we allow for verticals, so we have verticals aligned with our tables as well, again, to add, just remove that extra, a little bit more friction away from people and making it a bit more easier. And I think it's, this is very important for us in the build.
And I think you're right there in that you don't want to throw yourself into a hobby just to find that it's not for you. Whereas you actually do have the mutual interest here of everyone's coming because they want a great meal.
Absolutely. And that's why for us, like our restaurant partners list, that's a curated list. Everything is about curation. It's a lot of thought that's gone into this in terms of the restaurant partners as well. What's the atmosphere like? Is it too loud? What's the lighting like? Even to the point of what shape is the table? That kind of matters. To give everybody like the best chance that they can to actually hear one another and connect. And I think, for me, it was really about my list it's mid to high end. It's about great food. It's about great chefs, sustainability. It's an aspirational experience. It's something that's going to make you feel good. And that's really important to me. When I was thinking about me as the user, if you're trusting me with your time and you're showing up, and I take that really seriously. I take that with a great load of responsibility. And so where you turn up, when you're turning up these restaurants, it's about like, you've been wanting to try something maybe, or maybe you've not had the chance to book it yet because you've not been able to get a table, and we have. So I think that's really important for me when I think about the customer journey and that experience as a whole, because the last thing you want is somebody turning up and being disappointed by the environment, the atmosphere they're in.
And I guess it's fairly nascent for you at the moment, but what excites you about the future with yourself and the table app?
I think I'm most excited about my mission, which is really to create greater human connection. This is what keeps me up at night. I have to wake up 3-4 a.m. thinking about this, and it's not a struggle. It's genuinely it's built from a place of purpose and joy. This is one of the hardest journeys to be on. Building a startup is no, it's not for the faint-hearted for sure. But I think finding something that speaks so true to you and your values, it feels like a privilege, if I'm honest. It doesn't feel like work. And so what excites me is to see more people feeling connected, less alone, but, lifted in their spirits. I think that in itself is like a huge win for us. And, our North Star is, did you feel more connected when you left than when you first walked in? And that will remain for as long as we continue, as long as we grow as well. That will always remain for me. It's a deeply personal build. And, and I think when you're building for customers with you at the forefront, because as I say, I am the market, I'm the main person I'm building for. As I say, you have like I think you have a natural higher responsibility and a higher commitment level to make sure that you build in an intentional way and really serve people. I don't want people feeling that they're just using another app. That's really important to me. So excited about creating, deeper connection and community in that.
I think that human connection is something that's resonated throughout our time of doing this podcast as well. So what we'll do is we'll take a short break. We'll place our listeners and viewers on hold for a moment, and they'll get a virtual experience with our robot. And then we'll come back and ask you, Nimi, about one of your favorite customer experiences.
Is important to us. Please hold, and you'll be connected to your next favorite customer experience shortly.
Welcome back to my favorite customer experience. I'm here with Nimi Singh, the founder of the Table app. And before the break, we were talking about how you're bringing people together through human experiences, through intentional meals and great food. So I guess you might have quite a high bar when it comes to customer experience, but I'll ask you about a favorite customer experience you can share with us.
Sure. A recent customer experience that really just blew me away and has stayed with me since, and has made me think a lot about it, and has actually it's impacted my build as well when I'm thinking about how I want my people to feel. Is I was actually buying flowers for my sister recently. She just recently moved to New York, and she was very homesick. And it was Diwali, which we celebrate as a family, and it was the first time she had been away from home, and not having family around. And so, I really wanted to find a florist that could deliver same day in New York. And so I went online and I was sort of having a look, and there's a few options that came up. And there was one that particularly sort of just looked really great and had fantastic reviews. I'm always review based. And so it was called Ode de la Rose in New York, and went on their website and, built my package, which was, I wanted to send her some flowers, but I also wanted to send something sweet, because that's really important during Diwali, that you share chocolate of some kind. And so sent her a little chocolate bar with it. And then right at checkout, it said, would you like to include a printed photograph for free? And I thought, all right, well, given she's so homesick, maybe it'd be a lovely idea that I could choose a moment, with all the family. And actually, we all dropped her off at the airport when she left. So just, it wasn't the most fanciest photo, but just printed off the one that was sending her off in the airport. And anyway, the customer experience from ordering this package was just incredible, in that they kept me updated every single step of the way with technology. And I feel like, dare I say, floristry, I haven't really seen like a technical advancement within that, particularly in the UK anyway. And so, I've gotten a notification at every single step of the way of the journey, from putting it together, arranging it, to packing it, then sending me a lovely photograph to show me exactly how it looks. And it was stunning. And I think it was just that addition of the free photograph was just so meaningful in a way that perhaps, and I hope the founders realize what that means for customers. But I think it just adds that personal touch, that human touch. And it really allows you to evoke the emotion of why you're sending the flowers, because usually you're sending flowers for a particular reason. I think majority of us would do. And it just really made me think, like, what a very basic add-on, but such a huge impact. And bless her, my sister, received it, and she was just in floods of tears. And for her, we spoke about this, and I think, flowers aside, that would have been lovely. It was the photograph that sent her over the edge, and in the best of ways. And so, yeah, I think Eau de la Rose, if you ever need flowers in New York, brilliant.
And it's really nice as well when people mention who the brand was there, because if we think about that, you talked about intentionality in the first half, and this is a clear piece of intentionality from the florist, of rather than just a card, which is standard, it's taking that and going, let's put the personal touch in there, because a card is going to be printed or potentially handwritten at the far end, but it's still not you, it's your words. But adding that photo, I mean, cost perspective, printing a photo, if they're doing it en masse, is not going to be a huge amount realistically, but it's that step that takes it from a good transaction to a delight for your sister. Floods of tears being a positive in this regard, I'm hoping. But it's one of those points of, and I've not seen it. But the best I've seen is over here is kind of like adding a note on Amazon that still is printed, and it's very clear it's from Amazon. But doing that feels like a really beautiful extra touch.
Absolutely. And I think it's, again, going back to that human element. Um, it's, it's evoking emotion. I think for me, if I'm thinking about sort of the best customer experience, and I think experience as a whole going forward, personalization is everything. Um, it's what's needed the most with it's, and then when I think about the build with the table as well, it's less about automation, it's more about personalization. It's about evoking emotion. And I think these guys have done it so well.
And I guess you talk about your sister there being homesick. We talked about loneliness in the first half as well. It's bringing that together as well. You're immediately reminded of your family. Your family are thinking of you at a time of celebration, and it just breaks down that loneliness a bit further.
Absolutely. I think thought, thinking of people, reaching out to people generally, this is something that we need to do more of. Not just in sort of bigger moments like that, but I think it's something that I deeply think about in the evolution of what we're building as well. And I think people need to be more connected as a whole. Like, if you look at your calendar, for instance, we're all busy. Everybody is just run by work and careers. Um, your head's down usually most of the time. You're just getting through the days. But moments of joy, little moments of joy, are so important for our being, our overall, our overall wellness and longevity. It's about connection. That is one of the greatest factors. And so I think in, loneliness, as I say, that it's sort of it's a term that sort of has such negative connotations to it. I think, and a lot of stigma. And I think part of what we will be doing as well is really destigmatizing that and making it's okay. It's not, this is something that everybody suffers from. This is not an isolated suffering. In my build alone, in 14 months of talking every single day and reaching out to people and looking at statistics and research, loneliness shows up for all people and all walks of life and at every stage of life as well. And going back to my sister, bless her, she's like, when are you launching in New York? Because and it made me laugh, but also think, yeah, I can't wait for us to be there to help you out in that way, because that's actually, that's a really important persona for us, new to town and don't know anybody. And how do you go about that? It's difficult. And so we actually had a super user in our beta, and which blew my mind. But this wonderful lady called Charlene, who came back 6 times, and she came to 6 dinners, new to London, packed up her life from Atlanta and moved to London off on a whim to start a new life, and found it incredibly lonely because culturally, British culture, we're not as open as a lot of other countries, particularly the US. And we're not naturally great connectors either. And so, I think for her, she found it really jarring moving to a city that just people don't stop and say hello to you. Um, and so, yeah, we just need more vehicles essentially to help us come together again um, and just flex this muscle, as I said, just to like start understanding how do we do this again, face to face, not trying to get anything out of each other, but just being very present and connected.
I think you say it's not natural to us in the UK with this. Like if someone says hello to you, your first reaction isn't normally to say hello back. It's to think, is this person weird? And we can't help it. It seems to be a cultural thing. But similar point on our running group that we run out of a local beer shop. It's really interesting. The number of people that come to us and go, we were new to the area, and we were looking for a run, and you do a half price beer afterwards, and that's how people have found us. I used to run an event on Christmas Day Like we'd do a 5K on Christmas Day, and okay, my kids were not happy about it at the time. It's like, well, no, we'll do stockings before, we'll do presents afterwards. But for me, what was really interesting was for some people that were there, that was a half an hour or hour that they got to spend with other people on a day when they might not see anyone.
Mm.
And it just really resonated as to that's why. And it's worth suffering that little bit of heat for your Christmas Day being a little bit all over the place to go and see other people and give other people an outlet as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think that was a beautiful thing that you've organized. And I'm sure that's created a lot of impact, as you say, particularly for those who don't necessarily have many people to be around on that day. I think community in general is just we're seeing this on the rise, in real life communities. Everybody seems to be like the next trend that everyone's really focused on. But I think even with that, it needs to be intentional. I think there's already an overwhelm of, well, there's so many communities, there's so many events. Which one speaks to me? I think that's going to potentially be the next issue. And so for us, for instance, it's really about hyper personalization, like really getting to know each person who uses our service and understanding that whilst we, sitting around a table is a wonderful way to start a relationship, a friendship with somebody, and really understanding, what interests you may have that are shared. And by the way, we bring that out with AI. So AI is our co-pilot, and where we think that's a brilliant tool is I'm deeply fascinated about where our shared interests are and where they intersect and how we can draw that out. And that just naturally gives us a higher chance of having a great conversation and connectivity as a result.
So if people want to learn more, where can they find out more? Obviously, we can connect to you on LinkedIn, but assume there's a table, website, and app we could send people to.
Yes, absolutely. Please find me on LinkedIn. If anything through this chat has resonated with you, I'm always open to having a conversation and connecting. And you can download the Table app on the Apple Store. And please do come and meet me for a dinner.
Wonderful. Well, Nimi, thank you so much, and really captivating to hear about bringing the human element back into experiences and doing it with great food as well. No one's going to complain about that. Thank you very much for joining us on My Favorite Customer Experience.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to My Favorite CX. Your listenership is important to us. On your keypad, please press a number between 1 and 5 to rank how much you've enjoyed your experience.